Have you ever noticed how a year can change everything, and at the same time change absolutely nothing? The calendar turns, the numbers shift. A new year arrives with promises, expectations, and that familiar feeling that this time something will be different. And yet months later, you realize that although time moved forward, you stayed in the same mental place, the same thoughts, the same silent fears, the same habits operating beneath the surface, quietly shaping your life. How many times have you told yourself, next year I'll change my life, change my mindset, change my energy, change my direction? And how many times did the year change, while your inner world stayed exactly the same? Carl Jung understood something most people never fully grasp. Your external life is not shaped by time. It is shaped by consciousness. Time does not transform a person. Awareness does. That's why 2026 will change nothing for you unless you change first. The real question is not, what will 2026 bring me? The real question is, who will I be when 2026 arrives? Because life does not respond to hope. It responds to identity. You may look at other people's lives and feel something difficult to name. It's not exactly envy. It's more like a quiet recognition, a sense that you could have been there, that you had the potential, the intelligence, the sensitivity, but somehow your mind kept leading you down the same repetitive paths. The truth is uncomfortable, but simple. The external world is only an echo of the inner world. Jung knew this, and deep down, you know it too. Nothing outside you changes until something inside you shifts first. Not your finances, not your relationships, not your confidence, not your purpose. And that is why this moment matters, because today something inside you begins to move. In this video, you're going to discover 7 mental and spiritual habits inspired by Jungian psychology that have the power to make 2026 the year you finally take control of your mind and therefore your destiny. These are not loud habits. They are not dramatic rituals. They are quiet, internal disciplines, and that's why they work. Before we go any further, if this message is already stirring something inside you, if you feel that subtle sense of recognition, take a moment to subscribe, like this video, and share it with someone you care about. This small action isn't just support for the channel, it's a symbolic declaration to yourself and to life that you are ready for a deep internal shift. Many great thinkers understood this long before our time. Jung observed it psychologically, others studied it through success, leadership, and human behavior. Those who truly change their lives always begin the same way, by changing how they relate to their own mind, not through force, through awareness. Now pause for a moment, close your eyes just for a few seconds, and imagine this: 2026 stands in front of you like a mirror. On one side is who you are today. On the other is who you could become if you decided to train your mind with intention, discipline, and conscious direction. Between these two versions of yourself, there is only one difference: habits of consciousness. And the first habit, the one that opens the door to all the others, is something most people misunderstand completely. It is strategic mental silence, not the silence of avoidance, not the silence of repression, but the silence of mastery. This is the point, where your thoughts stop controlling you and begin to obey your awareness. Take a deep breath, because the transformation doesn't begin in action. It begins in stillness. Habit 1. Strategic mental silence. The first habit that can completely redefine your life in 2026 is the practice of strategic mental silence. This is not about shutting down your mind or escaping reality. It is about reclaiming authority over your inner territory, the most sacred space you possess. Carl Jung believed that thought is one of the most powerful forms of energy available to the human psyche. But power without direction becomes chaos. And that is exactly how most people live. Mentally overstimulated, emotionally reactive, internally fragmented. We live in a world addicted to noise. Everyone reacts, everyone comments, everyone defends, everyone is constantly pulled outward. Very few people pause, very few people observe, and almost no one truly listens to their own mind. When your thoughts run unchecked, they don't serve you, they rule you. They replay fears, resurrect old memories, anticipate disasters, and keep you trapped in mental loops that feel familiar but lead nowhere. Strategic silence is the moment you interrupt that loop. It is the deliberate act of stepping back from your thoughts instead of being dragged by them. Jung taught that when a person cannot control their thoughts, they are controlled by their unconscious. And what is unconscious does not act in your best interest. It acts according to old wounds, unresolved conflicts, and inherited patterns. Strategic silence is how you begin to bring the unconscious into awareness. It is the space between stimulus and reaction, the pause between thought and belief, the gap where choice becomes possible. This silence is not passive, it is intensely active. It requires presence. When you practice it, you stop immediately reacting to every internal impulse. You notice the thought without obeying it. You feel the emotion without becoming it. You observe the fear without letting it decide for you. This is not suppression, this is sovereignty. At first, this silence will feel uncomfortable. Your mind will resist it. Thoughts will become louder, more insistent. That's normal. It's the mind realizing it's no longer in charge. But if you stay present, something profound happens. The noise begins to settle, and beneath it, clarity emerges. You start to realize that most of what controls you isn't reality, it's interpretation, and interpretations can be changed. This habit alone begins to shift how you experience life. Conflicts lose their grip. External chaos no longer penetrates as deeply. You stop wasting energy reacting to things that don't deserve your attention. Strategic silence doesn't make you passive. It makes you precise. It is the foundation of emotional strength, mental discipline, and inner authority. And without it, no real transformation is possible. This is the first gate. Everything else builds on this. Most people believe their emotions control them. They wake up already tense. They react without thinking. They say things they later regret. They feel overwhelmed and call it life. But Carl Jung understood something radically different. An emotion is not a command. It is information. And the difference between someone who is ruled by life and someone who directs it is simple. One reacts to emotions, the other reads them. The moment you stop treating emotions as enemies or dictators and start treating them as signals, everything changes. Because emotions are not problems, unconscious reactions are. A person who cannot direct their emotional energy lives like a boat without a rudder, constantly pushed by external winds, constantly unstable, constantly exhausted. Every comment affects them. Every delay irritates them. Every uncertainty creates anxiety. That is not sensitivity. That is lack of direction. Jung was clear about this. A person who does not govern their inner world will always be governed by external circumstances. And here is the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. You don't lose control because emotions are too strong. You lose control because you act while you are inside them. The wise person does something radically different. They pause. Anger arises. They observe it. Fear appears. They breathe. Anxiety tightens the chest. They slow down. The urge to react explodes. They become silent. This pause is not weakness. It is emotional intelligence in action. Between emotion and action there is a small space, and inside that space lives freedom. Most people never enter that space. They collapse into impulse. They speak too fast, decide too early, react too loudly, and then they wonder why life feels chaotic. When you learn to pause, emotions stop owning you. You begin to understand something powerful. You can feel deeply without acting blindly. This is not repression. Repression pushes emotions down until they explode later. This is direction. Jung believed that emotions that are not consciously integrated will eventually control behavior from the shadows. Rage becomes passive aggression, fear becomes avoidance, desire becomes addiction, insecurity becomes constant comparison. But when emotion is observed instead of obeyed, it transforms. Anger becomes clarity, fear becomes awareness, anxiety becomes information, desire becomes intention. This is the difference between emotional chaos and emotional mastery. The mind was never meant to eliminate emotion. It was meant to lead it. Think about how many bad decisions are made in emotional storms. How many relationships are damaged by words spoken in heat? How many opportunities are lost because someone reacted instead of reflected? Emotional mastery is not about becoming cold. It is about becoming centered. A centered person does not deny what they feel. They simply refuse to let emotion decide their future. This is why strategic silence from block 1 is so important. Silence creates space. Space creates choice. Choice creates power. Every time you pause instead of react, you send a message to your subconscious. I am in control. And the subconscious responds immediately. It begins to reorganize. Thoughts slow down, patterns soften, behavior becomes intentional instead of automatic. Your inner world starts aligning around leadership instead of chaos. This is not mystical, it is neurological and psychological. The mind cannot operate at high performance under constant emotional tension. It needs moments of stillness to recalibrate. That's why the most important insights of your life will never come when you are frantic, rushed, or emotionally flooded. They come when you slow down. This is why the strongest individuals in history were not the loudest or most reactive. They were the most internally disciplined. Make a pact with yourself starting today. Create a daily emotional pause. It doesn't need to be long. 5 minutes is enough. Morning, night, or in the middle of the day when you feel overwhelmed. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, ask one simple question. What actually matters right now? Then listen, without forcing an answer. Clarity always arrives quietly. Before we move to the next habit, mark this moment. Symbols matter to the unconscious. Write in the comments, I choose silence to lead my emotions. This is not for the algorithm. It's a commitment to yourself. Because the second habit, that will define whether 2026 changes your life or repeats the past, is this. You stop being ruled by what you feel and start being guided by awareness. And once emotions no longer control you, something extraordinary begins to happen. Your confidence stabilizes, your reactions slow down, your presence deepens, and people feel it even when you say nothing. Self-mastery is not built in years. It is built in seconds. Those few seconds between emotion and action are where power is born. Carl Jung often compared the emotional mind to a wild horse, strong, fast, full of energy. But a horse without a rider doesn't move forward. It runs in circles, destroys fields, and eventually collapses from exhaustion. Emotion is the horse. Conscious direction is the rider. Most people lose opportunities not because they lack talent, intelligence, or potential, but because they lose control of their internal state. How many times have you spoken in anger and regretted it minutes later? How many? Doors closed because of impulsive reactions. How many decisions made on a bad day cost you weeks, months, even years? Emotional mastery is not coldness, it is wisdom. It is the ability to see clearly while others are drowning in the storm. In 2026, your strength will not come from avoiding emotion, it will come from deciding what to do with it. Anger can destroy you or direct you. Fear can paralyze you or prepare you. Sadness can break you or refine you. The difference is not the emotion. The difference is who is in command. Here is a powerful truth Jung understood deeply. When emotion dominates, the subconscious creates chaos. When consciousness dominates, the subconscious creates order. The subconscious mind is fertile ground. If you plant impulses, you harvest regret. If you plant awareness, you harvest results. So establish a sacred rule for 2026. No intense emotion is allowed to decide for you. If you are angry, wait. If you are euphoric, wait. If you are hurt, wait. Time is a natural filter. It returns clarity that emotion tries to steal. And with that clarity, you step into the next habit, the one that separates dreamers from builders. The third habit that will define who you become in 2026 is this: discipline above motivation. Carl Jung was brutally honest about this. Motivation is temporary. Discipline is transformative. Most people live waiting to feel ready. When I'm inspired, I'll start. When I feel better, I'll act. When the year changes, everything will change. But the universe does not respond to motivation. It responds to consistency. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is structural. Jung understood that the psyche is shaped not by occasional intensity, but by repetition. You are not what you want. You are not what you intend. You are not what you promise. You are what you repeat. A person with discipline does not need emotional permission to act. They do not wait for the perfect mood. They do not negotiate with resistance. They move quietly, consistently, relentlessly. Discipline is what you do when no one is watching, when there is no applause, when there is no certainty, when enthusiasm has vanished. Motivation is like a spark, bright, exciting, short-lived. Discipline is a sacred fire, steady, enduring, illuminating the path. In 2026, you cannot build your future on feelings. Feelings change, results remain. This is where most people fail. They build their identity on emotion. I'm motivated today, so I act. I'm tired today, so I stop. I feel confident today, so I commit. I feel doubtful today, so I quit. This creates a fragmented identity. A disciplined person builds identity first, then actions follow. They decide who they are, and behavior aligns. I am someone who shows up. I am someone who finishes. I am someone who keeps promises to myself. This identity does not depend on mood, and this is critical. Discipline is not punishment. It is self-respect in action. Every disciplined act sends to your subconscious. I can trust myself, and when the subconscious trusts you, resistance decreases. Procrastination weakens. Self-sabotage loses its grip. You stop fighting yourself. Most people think discipline makes life harder. In reality, lack of discipline makes life unbearable. Without discipline, you live in cycles of guilt, regret, and self-disappointment. With discipline, life becomes lighter. Because you carry fewer broken promises, you don't need extreme routines. You don't need perfection. You need non-negotiable consistency. One small action, repeated daily, reshapes the psyche. Jung believed the unconscious is educated through repetition, not intention. You train it the same way you train a muscle, through consistent use. So ask yourself, what is the one behavior that, if repeated daily, would change your life in 2026? Not 10 habits, not a massive overhaul. One. Commit to it without emotional negotiation, because the person you become in 2026 will not be the result of luck, motivation, or sudden insight. It will be the result of discipline, quiet, boring, powerful discipline. And once discipline becomes part of your identity, something extraordinary happens. You stop relying on willpower. You stop fighting yourself. You start moving with momentum, and momentum changes destiny. If discipline builds identity, productive solitude is where identity becomes vision. The fourth habit that can completely transform your life in 2026 is not noise, speed, or constant interaction. It is productive solitude, not isolation born from fear, not withdrawal caused by disappointment, but conscious, intentional retreat. Chosen solitude with purpose. Carl Jung believed that the most important decisions in a human life are not made in crowds, they are made in silence. He observed that individuals who truly change their destiny share one trait in common. They regularly step away from external influence to listen inward. This does not mean rejecting the world. It means refusing to let the world think for you. Modern life is an assault on clarity, notifications, opinions, comparisons, urgency, endless stimulation. In this environment, intuition becomes faint, inner direction becomes distorted, and most people end up living lives designed by pressure rather than purpose. Productive solitude is the mental laboratory where your mind resets, reorganizes, and realigns. It is the space where you stop reacting and start designing. Jung understood that when a person is constantly surrounded by noise, they slowly lose access to their own inner voice. They begin to confuse external expectations with internal truth. Solitude restores that voice. In solitude, something important happens. You stop performing. You stop explaining. You stop adjusting yourself to be accepted. You become honest, and honesty is the foundation of transformation. Napoleon Hill spoke of what he called the invisible council, a deliberate moment of inner conversation, where the individual mentally consults wisdom, future identity, or higher intelligence. This was not imagination for escape, it was strategy. In productive solitude, you do the same. You sit with yourself and ask questions most people avoid. What am I actually building? Who am I becoming through my daily habits? Which decisions are strengthening me and which are slowly weakening me? If nothing changes, where will this path lead me in 5 years? These questions cannot be answered in noise. They require stillness. Productive solitude is where clarity replaces confusion. It is where scattered thoughts organize themselves, where emotional residue dissolves, where intuition regains strength. This is why many people fear solitude, because in silence there is nowhere to hide, no distractions, no masks, no external validation, only truth. But that truth is not your enemy. It is your compass. The greatest leaders, thinkers, and creators throughout history understood this. They did not isolate themselves to escape life. They withdrew temporarily to understand life. They used solitude not as absence, but as preparation, not to disappear, but to return stronger. Productive solitude does not require hours in a mountain cabin. It requires intention. 10 minutes without a phone, a walk alone without music, writing without interruption, sitting in silence and allowing thoughts to surface without judgment. In these moments, the subconscious speaks. And when the subconscious speaks, it reveals patterns you cannot see while distracted. You begin to notice recurring thoughts, hidden fears, unspoken desires, suppressed ambitions. This is where realignment happens. Jung believed that a person cannot find themselves while constantly being shaped by others. Identity forms in contrast, in reflection, in quiet confrontation with the self. Without solitude, you live by imitation. With solitude, you live by intention. And here is a critical distinction. Productive solitude is not loneliness. Loneliness is the absence of connection. Productive solitude is connection with yourself. Loneliness drains energy. Productive solitude restores it. Loneliness creates anxiety. Productive solitude creates clarity. Loneliness weakens identity. Productive solitude strengthens it. When you practice this habit consistently, something powerful occurs. You stop needing constant stimulation to feel alive. Your nervous system stabilizes. Your thinking slows and deepens. Your decisions become grounded. And most importantly, you stop being easily influenced. The opinions of others lose their emotional grip. Trends lose their power over you. Pressure no longer dictates your direction. You begin to move from a center. In 2026, this habit will separate those who drift from those who design, those who react from those who choose, those who remain fragmented from those who become whole. Make productive solitude a non-negotiable part of your life. Not every day will feel profound. Not every session will bring clarity. But over time, something irreversible happens. You begin to trust your own voice, and when that trust is established, you no longer look outside for permission. You move forward with quiet certainty, because the life you are building does not require applause. It requires alignment, and alignment is born in silence. When you begin to live this way, asking yourself what you are truly becoming, what you are repeating out of habit instead of consciousness, something subtle but powerful takes place. Your mind aligns, your thoughts slow down, your emotions stabilize, your intentions become clearer, and direction begins to emerge, not as pressure, but as quiet certainty. The truth is simple and uncomfortable. Most people never stop to think this way. They move, they react, they repeat. Very few pause, very few reflect, very few look inward. And that is exactly why those who do become different. Calmer, clearer, stronger, more strategic, productive. Solitude prepares the mind, but continuous learning is what expands it. The fifth habit that will define whether 2026 becomes a turning point or just another recycled year is this: commitment to continuous learning. Carl Jung was unequivocal on this matter. A mind that does not expand does not remain neutral. It contracts. There is no standing still. You are either growing or you are unconsciously repeating the past. There is no middle ground. Those who stop learning begin living on autopilot. Their beliefs become outdated, their reactions predictable, their identity rigid, and rigidity is the enemy of evolution. History shows a clear pattern. Every individual who transcended limitations remained a lifelong student. Not a collector of information, but a cultivator of understanding. They did not ask, "What do I know?" They asked, "What am I still blind to?" Continuous learning is not about consuming more content. It is about expanding awareness. It is about looking at life itself and asking one essential question: what is this trying to teach me? The wise do not see failure, they see instruction. They do not see delay, they see preparation. They do not see obstacles, they see course correction. Every experience becomes material for growth. Napoleon Hill observed that every adversity carries within it the seed of an equal or greater benefit, but that seed only germinates in a mind willing to learn. Most people experience hardship and grow bitter. The learner experiences hardship and grows sharper. That is the difference. In 2026, your life must become a permanent school, not a heavy, exhausting school, but a conscious one, a school of observation, a school of reflection, a school of refinement. You do not need to read endlessly. You need to digest intentionally. One paragraph that changes how you think is more powerful than 100 pages you forget. One insight applied is worth more than 10 theories admired. Learning also happens outside books. You learn by observing your emotional patterns. You learn by questioning your reactions. You learn by noticing what triggers you. You learn by watching what drains you and what energizes you. You learn from people, especially from those who fail. They teach you what paths to avoid. You learn from silence. Silence reveals what distraction hides. You learn from pain. Pain exposes what comfort conceals. The learner does not waste experience, they extract meaning. And meaning transforms experience into wisdom. Here is where most people go wrong. They wait until life breaks them to reflect. The conscious learner reflects before life forces the lesson. They ask, why did I react this way? What belief drove that decision? What fear is operating beneath this pattern? What must change if I want different results? These questions reprogram the subconscious, and the subconscious is not logical, it is habitual. The more you question, the more aware you become. The more aware you become, the less automatic your life becomes. This is mental alchemy. Learning reshapes identity. When you commit to daily growth, even small, your mind begins to reorganize itself around expansion rather than defense. You stop fearing new ideas. You stop resisting change. You stop clinging to outdated versions of yourself. You become adaptable, and adaptability is power. In 2026, let learning become a non-negotiable rhythm. 5 minutes of reading, 1 written reflection, 1 honest self-question, 1 pattern observed. That is enough. Growth is not explosive, it is cumulative, and over time, something irreversible happens. Your thinking elevates. Your emotional intelligence deepens. Your decisions improve. You begin seeing reality more clearly, not through illusion, not through fear, but through understanding. And once understanding replaces confusion, your life stops repeating itself. Because the mind that learns continuously cannot remain the same. Learning sharpens the mind. Reflection brings in clarity, but action is what turns awareness into destiny. This is where most people fail. They know, they plan, they talk, but they do not move. The 6th habit, and perhaps the most misunderstood in depth psychology, is this: practical action must always come before words. Carl Jung understood something that few people are willing to accept. Insight without action becomes another form of self-deception. You can study endlessly. You can analyze yourself deeply. You can understand your patterns perfectly. But if your behavior does not change, nothing changes. Action is the real language of the unconscious. Napoleon Hill stated something brutally honest. Action is the true measure of intelligence, not how much you know, not how well you explain, not how beautifully you speak. What matters is what you do, consistently. The universe does not respond to intention. It does not respond to plans. It does not respond to desire. It responds to movement. We live in an age of excessive talking and minimal execution. People announce goals, they declare transformations, they share visions, yet their daily behavior remains identical. The average person talks, the thinker reflects, the master acts. Those who create real results share one quiet habit. They stop broadcasting and start building. Words create expectation, action creates reality. Here is a truth that can free you completely. The more you talk about what you're going to do, the less energy you have to actually do it. The mind interprets verbal declaration as partial completion. It produces a false sense of progress. That is why so many people feel exhausted without results. They spent their energy explaining instead of executing. In 2026, do the opposite. Work in silence. Study in silence, evolve in silence, build in silence, let results speak for you. Every time you promise yourself something and fail to act, your internal trust weakens, your subconscious records inconsistency. But every time you decide and follow through, even in small ways, something powerful happens. You send a clear message inward: I can be trusted, and a mind that trusts itself becomes unstoppable. Do not wait for perfect conditions. They never come. Do not wait to feel ready. Readiness follows action, not the other way around. Action creates clarity. Action creates confidence. Action creates momentum. Even imperfect action rewires identity. When you act, your subconscious shifts from doubt to alignment, from hesitation to Authority. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who does. And this identity shift is irreversible. Take this rule seriously in 2026. No over-explaining, no announcing, no seeking validation. One decision, one action, one execution every day. It does not need to be dramatic, it needs to be consistent. Send the email, make the call, write the page, train the body, study the subject, correct the habit. Small actions compound into massive change. Action grounds your psychology in reality. It prevents spiritual arrogance. It eliminates self-delusion. Because reality always answers honestly. And when your actions and intentions align, your mind becomes coherent, your energy stabilizes, and your confidence deepens. You no longer hope for change, you embody it. There is one habit that binds all the others together. One practice that harmonizes mind and spirit. One internal state that opens the door to both inner peace and outer prosperity. This final habit is conscious gratitude combined with present awareness. Carl Jung understood something essential about the human psyche. The mind only creates coherently when it is internally aligned. And nothing aligns the mind more deeply than gratitude practiced with presence. Gratitude is not weakness. It is not passive acceptance. It is not pretending everything is fine. Gratitude is power. It is a silent declaration to life that says, I recognize what already exists, and therefore I am ready for what comes next. When you are grateful, you expand what you perceive. When you are present, you expand what you experience. Yet most people live in the wrong place psychologically. They live trapped in a past they cannot change, or anxious about a future that has not arrived. And because of that, they miss the only place where life actually happens. Now. Napoleon Hill warned about this clearly. An anxious mind cannot create. It scatters, it fragments, it exhausts itself. A grateful mind, on the other hand, organizes. It stabilizes, it generates clarity. Gratitude does not instantly change external circumstances. It changes your internal posture toward them. And when your posture changes, reality responds differently. This is not philosophy, this is psychology. A nervous system rooted in presence sends a signal of safety to the subconscious. A subconscious that feels safe becomes creative, focused, and productive. In 2026, this habit will be essential. Begin with simple daily rituals. When you wake up, acknowledge 3 real things you are grateful for, not abstract ideas, not distant goals, concrete, living facts. A body that breathes, a skill you possess, a lesson you survived. Throughout the day, when your mind drifts into worry or mental noise, pause and ask, what is actually real right now? Not imagined, not feared, not projected. Reality anchors the mind. At night, before sleep, review the day with gratitude, not only for what went well, but also for what challenged you, because growth often hides inside discomfort. Gratitude is not denial of pain, it is recognition of meaning. Presence is not perfection, it is attention. Together, gratitude and presence recalibrate your internal frequency. They shift you out of scarcity, out of comparison, out of mental chaos, and into grounded strength. Take a breath right now. Reflect on what you have absorbed during this journey. 7 habits, 7 internal shifts, 7 decisions. Not to make life easier, but to make you stronger. You may not control the world, but you control your attention, you control your reactions, you control your discipline, you control your awareness, and whoever controls the mind controls the direction of life. Napoleon Hill said that every external change begins with an internal decision. Perhaps today was that decision. Not a loud one, not a dramatic one, but a quiet, grounded commitment to yourself. A commitment to act instead of wait, to observe instead of react, to build instead of announce, to grow instead of repeat. If you are ready to seal this commitment, write in the comments, "I choose presence, gratitude, and silent action in 2026. When you write, you reinforce identity. When identity shifts, behavior follows. And when behavior changes, destiny reorganizes. If this message resonated with you, if it clarified something you already felt but could not articulate, subscribe to the channel. Not as a favor, as a signal to yourself that this journey matters. Share this with someone who feels lost, overwhelmed, or stuck in repetition. Sometimes a single message is enough to remind someone they are not broken, only distracted. You are not behind, you are not late, you are not lacking, you are becoming. And 2026 does not decide who you will be. You do.